Okay, so we are here to do a linguistic biography. You're my grandma.
I am.
Okay. So, wait, I guess I should ask you your name.
My name is Jan Luce.
Okay. I should have that in there. Okay, so the first question we're going to go with, we're going to do like a semi-structured interview, so, just don't worry about, we're not going to worry about sticking to all the questions and, that whole kind of thing. Okay, so the first question I have for you is, what language or languages do you speak, and how did you learn to speak them?
I speak English, and I learned to speak it in the home and in the school and in my community, the people that I'm around.
Okay, that's pretty much all I do. My second question is, how do you think you use language differently than how you did in the past? Can you think of a story of how you learned to use language differently?
Well, I can say that I use it differently today than I did, say, 6 or so years ago because I'm retired now. And prior to that, being in the professional field, I probably spoke more professionally then than I do now. So that would be different. A story of how I've learned to use language differently. Well, I don't know on that one. I've been fortunate all my life to be with a wide variety, diverse group of people. So I've learned to speak in several different methods. I guess when I was working, the biggest difference in my speaking was whether I was speaking to an adult group or if I was speaking to children. To still be grammatically correct, but not to be over the children's heads so they understood. So maybe that was one thing that I had to learn with the job that I was in, because I taught a lot of school programs to keep children's interest, but still not speak above what they could understand.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Okay. Yeah. Okay. My third question: how does your speech change throughout the day?
Okay, there again, before I retired, that would be an easy one to answer because depending on the group that I was spending time with, I can say now, being retired and being single and being alone, changing throughout the day, I guess would be what company I'm keeping. It even changes between friends. I have one friend who is like needy, who needs a lot of reassurance and needs a kind voice all the time. I have another friend who, she and I are able to sit down and talk about novels and what they've meant to us. So I talk to her a completely different way. And then I have some agricultural friends that I'm talking about field conditions and how to grow food plots. So the subject matter changes throughout the day. And with that subject matter changing, then I guess a lot of times my language changes as to whether I should be talking on a level that they understand, using words that they would appreciate.
Right. A sociolect is defined as the dialect of a particular social class. So knowing that, what type of sociolect would you say you speak within?
I would say I am probably mid-class, okay. Maybe upper mid-class.
Okay. 5. Parenthese is when you do some of the following when speaking to children. You use a higher pitch range and volume voice. Clusters of consonants are reduced. The R sound in your words is replaced with a W. Reduplication is common, so you say mama, dada, that type of thing. So knowing this, what ways did you teach your children to speak? How did you speak to them? Did you use parenthese?
I did not. Other than to say, I was so specific in not talking to my children as small individuals. in what I always called a baby talk, because I felt this did not teach them how to speak properly.
Right.
So I always tried to use, and I asked others to do the same thing.
Right.
Now, the only thing that I might do is raise my voice if something was exciting, but pronunciation, especially, or proper usage of words, I was very specific in saying we don't do that,
Right.
because children can't learn from that.
Right. A speech community is defined as a group of speakers. So, what are some speech communities that you are part of?
Okay, the horse community, which definitely has their own way of speaking. That's probably one of the bigger ones, since that was a large part of my background. Agricultural community, also a large part of my background and what I still deal with. Now I have a hunting business, so I had to learn a lot more about hunting and deer hunting and field conditions as it pertains to the raising, the protecting of deer. So there's that one. And I've been around a lot of the EMS personnel, and so that's another one that I have to kind of be in tune to. And recently I'm a little more in tune to the nursing because of my daughter.
Would you say that you're a part of the northern speech community?
Yes, but I occasionally flip over to some of the others.
Do you think that Ohio is its own speech community?
It can be pretty close to being its own speech community, without a doubt. Various different words that are used here that people are. One of them that just still amazes me is when people are saying, "Are you going to go with?"
Mm-hmm.
That one drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Go with who? Go with what? Go with,
Guilty of saying that.
That's one that just about drives me. Or something is all, meaning it's all gone, all done. That's all. The coffee's all. It's all what? So those are the kind of things that,
right.
But I notice that a lot, and that drives me nuts.
Right. Do you think that even parts of like northern Ohio versus southern Ohio, or eastern versus western Ohio, could be their own speech community?
Without a doubt. As we talked about one other time, it's the difference about saying whether it's pop or soda. Mm-hmm. And as you said, sometimes I jump back and forth between both of those.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a lot of times I just call it cola.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I think that there's definitely a big difference between, and you don't always understand sometimes what the other one is saying.
Right.
Hoagies is another one,
mm-hmm.
as compared to submarines, and it's like, are you eating a ship or
right.
what?
Right. Right. Okay, so we've already talked about this a little bit, but we're going to touch on it again. How does your language differ between different groups of people? Do you speak the same to your colleagues or peers the same way you speak to family and friends?
No. In the first place, family and friends, sometimes you I get lazy. Mm-hmm. I speak lazy. Mm-hmm. I have a big problem with putting the ing and ing words. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying putting, I'll say putting. I'm putting this.
Right.
I'm going to be making whatever instead of saying making. But if I'm talking to colleagues or I'm talking on a professional manner, then without a doubt my speech is much more professional, because I'm not as lazy. Right. In the way I speak. So yeah, there's a difference in the way you speak, and also I think there's a difference in the way you speak because of the fact if you are talking to somebody in the agricultural community, I'm not to say that they aren't as educated, because some of them are highly educated, but they have their own language. It's certain things like if I were to say to somebody in agriculture, is that field a fallow? Well, he would know exactly what I'm talking about, but perhaps somebody that's not from that community, that's very well educated, would have no idea what I'm talking about. So yes, it's a different speech for a different group that you're speaking to.
Code switching is defined as an individual's use of two or more language varieties in the same speech, event, or exchange. So, in what ways or situations do you code switch? Could you think of an example?
I think that question's a little harder for me, but I think we all do that. I know I used to do it a lot more frequently there again when I um, did more speaking, particularly if you were talking to two groups. Perhaps I would be teaching a session that had both adults and children in it. And then at the end of the session, when it came to questions and answers, I would not probably use the same language for the adult question as I would for the child. The child, I'd want to keep it as simple as possible, and so they understood it. And with the adult, I would have more detailed in the speech and probably use a different set of vocabulary than I would with the child. So that's one way. Another way, of course, too, is perhaps, and I know I've done this, been on the phone with someone and we're not agreeing on an issue, and I'm trying to explain my side of it, and maybe it's getting a little heated, and somebody would step in my office, somebody innocent of everything, and ask another question. I would immediately switch over to a probably friendlier tone with that person.
Right. And then go back to your conversation.
Yeah, then go back to my other conversation now, as I was saying. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever felt that others judged you based on the way you speak?
Yes. I think that we all do that. I think that at least for somebody who pays attention to language, and I do think that people automatically, first off, pick up whether they feel you're educated or not. I think they also pick up on whether they feel that you're an informed person. If you're an informed person, perhaps you're more community caring because you are informed. So yeah, right. I definitely think so.
Right. So I think you kind of just alluded to it a little bit. Do you feel that you judge others based on the way they speak?
Without a doubt, and I really, really try to guard against that. My biggest fault is judging people on improper grammar use, and when I hear it, bells and whistles go off, and it automatically throws up. Oh my gosh, this person's not well spoken, must not be very educated. Right. It was a really big deal in our home as a child that my parents were very, very strict on using proper grammar, and you just didn't have a conversation if you weren't using the right tense.
Right.
It was immediately corrected. So yes, I do try to watch that because I can judge a person, which I don't think is right. I mean, that's not their self-worth. That may just be their lack of education, but that doesn't decide what kind of a person they are.
Right. Have you ever felt excluded by someone else's use of language?
Oh yeah. Yes, I think whatever group that you're in, if you're speaking with, and I can think of 2 or 3 way back in the day, it was lawyer talk. At that time, I was married to an attorney, and of course, several of them would get together, and they would be talking about, this case and that case. Then later on, I was definitely around an EMS community, and they were talking about this procedure and that procedure and some other procedure, and I was the only one that wasn't medical. As a matter of fact, there was a time that the gentleman I was married to was a medic himself. His mother was a nurse. His 2 sister-in-laws were in the medical field, and his 2 brothers were in the medical field. So when we got together as a family, I basically was the only one that was not in the medical field. So without a doubt, and I've even felt the same thing with going at lunch with my daughter one time, and all the ladies there were nurses, and not only did they have all work together, so they had their group discussion of what was going on at work. Then they also had their group discussion of the nursing side of it, which I had nothing to say.
Right.
At all.
I definitely understand that. I feel like that was mom. Okay, well, that is all I have. So if there's anything else you'd like to add about your use of language or anything else, you are more than welcome to do so.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is I think that language is extremely, extremely important, and I think that after all, that is our communication.
Right.
And I'm glad to have done this. I hope it was of some help. But I'm a person who appreciates language, and I think that it's important to. I think it's important to study the use of it because it does determine how we affect one another.
Right.
So I think it's very important.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Okay.